Yeah, I'm still alive. Back from the digital world with something slightly unorthodox that everyone's complaining about that might get hit relatively soon, so we're getting this up as soon as possible. We're going black-based BlackWarGreymon. Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to T Forbidden's YouTube page. It is I, Setter Summon the Fanatic, BlackWarGreymon Tamer, or Greymon Tamer. You know, Greymon's my boy, going through all the stuff. So we're trying out black-based BlackWarGreymon. A lot of people like using the red-based a little bit better because the inheritals are a little bit more proactive. But personally, I really think the black base is highly underlooked, and it's only just going to get better when BT12 finally hits. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. First off, shout out to StarFox64 for this amazing BlackWarGreymon playmat. Ordered it off of Facebook from him. As you can see, it's just beautiful. So first off, we're starting off with the Digi Eggs. So we got 4 Coromon. We're all foiled out for here, so we picked up all the foils from BT11. Not too sure I'm okay with that choice from Bandai, but Coromon, nice and simple. During your opponent's turn, when the opponent's Digimon is deleted and your Digimon has Greymon name, you draw a card. We have a couple of different inheritables that let you draw during your opponent's turn. Basically nets you cards. This happens if your opponent swings into your security, or if you block them, or if you redirect it with BlackWarX. Alright, so off into the rookies. We've got 12 rookies. We're starting off with 4 copies of Tapermon from BT9. This is basically just because it's the only good inheritable in this deck for black right now, and we don't have the Agumon from BT12 yet. Literally, the only thing that's going to happen when BT12 comes is this is going to get replaced by the red-black Agumon, and the Makis are going to be replaced by Tai. That's basically it. But he's basically in here because we decided to run Maki. If you want, you can cut these out for the blocker Agumon from the starter deck. I mean, sometimes the rookie blocker can come up, but this guy is pretty good. Makes your Black Wars 14 during both players. Black War X's and Gaiamon's 14 during both players' turns. 4 copies of my boy, the Black Agumon. Search top 4 for Greymon and Dragonkin. So good. And then 4 copies of the Black Agumon X Antibody. So this one is a 4 play cost, unfortunately, so that's a little rough sometimes, not gonna lie. But it's got 3k DP, and then when it digivolves or when you play it, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and add any card with Greymon or X Antibody in its name and a black tamer from among them to your hand, and then you put the rest on the bottom of your deck. The nice thing about this card is it actually has an inheritable, unlike, you know, a lot of the other Agumons do that are all turns boosts. But yeah, basically, if this stack has Greymon or Omnimon in its name, and it will be returned to the hand or deck by a card effect, or destroyed, you can just bottom deck the X Antibody under its stack, and then prevent it from leaving the field. The Greymon X has that as well. We'll get to Greymon X in a moment. So that's it for the rookies, 12 count. Champion count. We've got 4 copies of the Blocker Greymon. I don't have the alternate arts just yet. They are a little hard to come by at the present time, but it's Blue Greymon. We're in theme, so for our other main level 4, we're doing 2 copies of the Greymon from the starter deck. An alternative that you could use is you can use the BT2 Greymon that has jamming, because your Black War X's and your Gaiamons all have reboot. So you can just swing willy-nilly and just have jamming going in. But this one, if your opponent doesn't attack with a Digimon, you draw an extra card. Drawing extra cards is always good if they don't deal with your stack and they don't have any Digi on board. Oh, free extra draws. And next, 4 copies of a card that I claim I literally willed into existence. I basically willed this thing into existence. For those who don't know, Greymon X Antibody doesn't exist on the original Digimon X. You actually have to go into Tyrannomon to get Metal Greymon on there, because for some reason there's no Greymon X. However, the first Digimon card game, Hyper Coliseum, created the Vaccine Greymon X. This monster did not exist until this set released in Japan. Literally a few days when the set was first announced, before cards started getting revealed, there was a rumor that this was going to be based on one of the Digimon World games, specifically the one where with Yu Yakuga in it. And I said, hey, wait a minute, Greymon X was invented for Hyper Coliseum. What if they made a virus type finally for this card game? And lo and behold, this thing was revealed about a week later. No lie. So I should explain a lot more about this card because there's a lot of talks about this card getting limited or banned. Honestly, I'm just like, no, leave it alone. But I'm a Greymon player, so I have a bias on that. So basically what this thing does is digivolves from any Greymon for 0, Greymon specifically. And then during your turn, when you would digivolve into a card with Greymon in its name, you reduce that cost of the Digivolution by 1 for each color that it has. So a lot of people are complaining about this card because there's a Metal Greymon that can digivolve from any Greymon in its name for 3 that's coming out in the next set that has Raid. And essentially with this card, it's going to be a 1-cost Digivolution. And if basically all your Metal Greymons are going to be 2 cost. So if you have the dual color Metal Greymon here, it's only going to be 2, you de-digivolve and then pop a 3K. And then it's got the same inheritable as the Agumon X on top of that. So yeah, this card is really, 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 really good. If you're not running it and you're running a Greymon based deck, good God, what are you doing? So next, we saw a short preview, 4 copies of Metal Greymon from BT8. If you want, you can run the BT2 one to give security attack +1 to your jamming lawns. I personally just like the consistency of having 4 of this and of being able to just attack into your opponent's Digimon that are unsuspended. It's just stupid. It's nuts. 4 copies of, my God, I can't believe this is a $3 rare, and that's not the pre-release version of it. Virus Metal Greymon X. It's Virus Metal Greymon X. You digivolve on top of regular Metal Greymon for 1. Cannot be de-digivolved or have its DP reduced for until the end of your opponent's turn. That is huge. Means you can't swing into security and be like, oh, Greymon, oh, I want to de-digivolve your stack. Guess what? You can't. Oh yeah, and if it's got X antibody or Metal Greymon in the sources, you just kill a 6K or less. And then the crazy part about this card is the inheritable. For during the opponent's turn, when it has a Greymon or Omnimon in its name, if a Digimon becomes unsuspended, you trash your opponent's top security. Then inheritable is nuts. I mean, they're trying to come out with stuff to get better at it, but just the 8 level 5s, the 4 Greymon, 4 Metal Greymon, and the 4 Metal Greymon X. We keep an on theme here. Alright, next into the Megas, 2 copies of BlackWarGreymon from BT8. Y'all know my boy. It pops down, pops Tamers if you have a black source, pops Digimon if you have a red source. Total cost of cards adds up to 6 or less. Boom. 2 copies of the new BlackWarGreymon X Antibody. This thing, God, what does it not do? So, first thing that should be note, it's a hefty 5 costs for digivolving normally, and it digivolves on top of BlackWarGreymon for 2. It's got Reboot, and during the opponent's turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon or when a Digimon, when your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP attacks, you can just redirect the attack to him. It's dumb. It's stupid, stupid dumb. And then the other thing is, opponent's turn once per turn, when a Digimon becomes unsuspended, if you've got BlackWarGreymon or X Antibody in the sources, you get to delete your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So, this thing is just nuts. When this thing first came out, the regular arts were a $10 super. You're probably wondering why we're not running like a 3-3 split of these. And that's because the mirror match for this deck is god-awful. So in order to cope with the mirror match, we have 2 copies of Gaomon, which is the other X evolution for BlackWarGreymon. It's got reboot and security attack +1, and it's always treated as a Greymon. That's very, very important. Because that means if you search it with Agumon or any of your other search cards, you'll get to add it to your hand as a Greymon or the Dragonkin that it is. So this thing, a security attack +1 and reboot, and when it digivolves, if you have a black source, you de-digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and if you have a red source, Blitz. This thing basically helps you if you don't have the X antibody option card, because you can just de-digivolve something. Oh, let me just attack your unsuspended Digimon that I just de-digivolved. And then it's got reboot, so if you've got the X on top of it, it can't be de-digivolved for that turn. And you just trash your opponent's top security, so you're essentially checking 3 cards. It's dumb. But yeah, you basically need Gaomon for the mirror match because reboot blockers are just good. Plus, this is your only real way of applying pressure against other decks. For our last Digimon that we have in the deck, we have 1 copy of Omnimon X Antibody from BT5. You need this card, or otherwise you auto-lose the Grandest matchup. Or Bloom Lord. Anything that just suspends your stuff, this thing just lets you stop your opponent's attacks. Because, yeah, they're getting over 14. Easy. So you need this in order to stay alive. Alright, off to the Tamers. We are running 6 Tamers today, starting with 2 copies of Cool Boy. Arguably, you should be running 3 or 4 because this card is busted. There's a lot of talks of this card getting hit on the upcoming forbidden or restricted list as well. So it's Cool Boy. It's broken. I don't have to explain anymore. I wanted another black tamer in here, so I decided to go with a couple of copies of Maki. I mean, you can this is a tamer that basically searches your entire top line and your Greymon X, and if you manage to top deck my Tapermon with it, excellent. And then it helps reduce your 4 and 5 cost Mega Evolutions to hopefully keep turn if you have it with this card. 2 copies of Yu Yu Kuga to round out the Tamers. You can arguably go 3 and 3, this card and this card, but that just literally the reason I'm going for the Maki is because I don't want to just auto-lose setting these down, because that's the way that you lose the mirror match, is they drop this down. You set up your Tamers, and then they just kill both your Tamers. It's stupid. But yeah, Yu Yu Kuga. This card is stupid as well. It's your memory tamer, so it automatically sets you to 3 at the start of your turn. And then when you digivolve into a Digimon with Greymon in its name, you can suspend it and give it an additional 2k DP until the end of your opponent's turn. If it digivolved into a Digimon with the same level, it's unaffected by option cards until the end of the opponent's turn as well. This thing is nuts. This is literally what prevents you from auto-losing to Mastamon. Assuming, of course, that you see this card, which I just have the worst luck in the world. I never see it. But yeah, those are the 6 Tamers that I'm choosing to run. Option cards, you run 3 copies of X Antibody. You could probably run 4, but 4 gets a little bit cloggy. We've got 2 copies of Black Memory Boost because we're running the black base. So, Memory Boost or Memory Boost, there's not much else to say here. The other point of contention for BlackWarGreymon, and the last 2 cards that we have in the deck, are 2 copies of Hades Force. Good God, what the hell was Bandai thinking printing this card? This card is absolutely busted. So, first thing that should be noted is if you're playing it from your hand, well, it's a black-red option, so you need black and red on the field in order to play it. Which is, well, I don't know, all your top lines. So, that's the first thing that needs to be said about it. First is, if you have X Antibody, the option card under the source of one of your Digimon, you reduce the cost by 2. So it then becomes a 5 cost. Main, choose any number of your opponent's Digimon and or Tamers whose combined play costs are less than or equal to the cost of one of your Digimon with Greymon in its name, and delete all of the chosen cards. Basically, you resolve this card. If you don't win, something went terribly wrong. Oh, and then just like Gaia Force Zero in WarGreymon X, you just get to attack with a Greymon after that point. So, yeah, this is the other card that is in contention that a lot of people... honestly, I think if you put this card to 1 or ban it, Black War becomes fair. Because this is the only card that really makes the deck super unfair, in my opinion, at the current time. But then again, we'll have to find out in about a week what happens to it. Anyways, guys, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell down below for notifications. Let us know if you want to see the red-based version of this deck in the near future. We got a couple of other deck profiles that are coming up for you soon, but stay tuned. Digitally closed.